The mockery started the day I got my college acceptance letter. I was 19, sitting at the breakfast table with my biology textbook open, highlighting sections about cellular respiration. My sister Victoria walked in fresh from her morning run and looked over my shoulder. "Still playing doctor?" she said, pouring herself coffee. "You know medical school is for people who are actually smart, right?" I kept highlighting. "I have a 3.9 GPA. At community college." She laughed. "Maya, that's like being the smartest person at McDonald's. It doesn't count." Dad looked up from his tablet. "Victoria has a point, sweetheart. Medical school is extremely competitive. Have you considered something more practical? Maybe pharmacy tech? That's still healthcare." "I want to be an emergency medicine physician." Victoria nearly spit out her coffee. "Emergency medicine? You faint at the sight of blood." "I fainted once when I was 12. "Exactly. You're not cut out for trauma. You're too soft." She sat down across from me. "I'm not trying to be mean. I'm trying to save you from wasting years of your life on a dream that's never going to happen." Victoria was 23 then, working as a marketing coordinator at a tech startup. She made decent money, had a nice apartment downtown, wore designer clothes. She was everything our parents thought success looked like. I was the younger sister still living at home, studying at the local community college because it was all we could afford, working nights at a coffee shop to save for university. The contrast wasn't lost on anyone. "Maya's always been a dreamer," Mom said, bringing toast to the table. "Remember when she wanted to be an astronaut? Then a marine biologist? Now it's doctor. Next year it'll be something else." "I've wanted to be a doctor since I was 16, I said quietly. "Exactly," Victoria said. 3 whole years of this fantasy. When are you going to accept reality?" I closed my textbook. "What reality is that?" "That you're not special. That medical school is for exceptional people, not average students from community college who work at coffee shops." Dad touched my hand. "She's not saying you're not smart, honey. Just that maybe your goals are a bit ambitious." "Unrealistic," Victoria corrected. "The word is unrealistic." I stood up, gathering my books. "I have class." Running away from honest feedback, Victoria called after me. "That's very mature." The pattern continued for years. When I transferred to State University with a full scholarship, Victoria said, "Scholarships are for people who can't afford to pay. It's not really an accomplishment." When I got accepted to medical school, she said, "Medical school accepts thousands of students every year. Most of them drop out." When I started my residency in emergency medicine, she said, "Still in training at 26. I was making 6 figures by then. Our parents never contradicted her. They'd smile apologetically at me, then redirect the conversation to Victoria's latest promotion, Victoria's new car, Victoria's vacation to Bali. "Victoria just got promoted to senior marketing director," Mom would announce at Sunday dinners. "That's wonderful," I'd say, pushing food around my plate. "And how's the residency?" Dad would ask, making it sound like a hobby rather than a career. "Busy. Challenging." "Still living in that tiny apartment near the hospital?" Victoria would lean back, wine glass in hand. "You know, my building has units available. Much nicer. But I guess on a resident's salary." I learned to stay quiet. The worst part wasn't Victoria's constant dismissal. It was watching my parents believe her version of success over mine. They measured worth in salary and square footage, not in lives saved or skills mastered. My phone buzzed constantly during those years. Trauma alerts, critical patients, emergency codes. But at family gatherings I kept it silent. They thought I was a struggling resident barely keeping up, working excessive hours because I wasn't efficient enough. They had no idea. By 29, Victoria was a vice president at her company. She'd bought a condo, was engaged to a software engineer, planning a destination wedding in Italy. I still lived in my small apartment near the hospital, drove a 10-year-old Toyota, wore scrubs most days. The difference was stark. "Maya, honey," Mom said one Sunday, "Victoria mentioned her company is hiring. Maybe something in HR? It would be more stable then." "I'm happy where I am." "But you're 30 years old," Dad said. "Still working insane hours. Still making resident salary. Don't you want a real life?" Victoria's fiancé, Derek, jumped in. "There's no shame in admitting medicine wasn't the right fit. Lots of people realize they're not cut out for. I'm exactly where I want to be, I said. Victoria shook her head. Pride. That's all this is. You can't admit you should have listened to us 10 years ago. They didn't know I'd been promoted to Chief of Emergency Medicine at St. Catherine's Medical Center 4 months earlier. They didn't know I'd published research on rapid trauma protocols that was being implemented across the state. They didn't know I was being recruited by Mass General and Johns Hopkins. They didn't know because telling them would have just given Victoria more ammunition to somehow diminish it. Still playing doctor? Became her standard greeting. How's the training going? With air quotes around training. When are you going to get a grown-up job? At every family event. I smiled, stayed quiet, and let them believe whatever narrative made them comfortable. Christmas arrived with snow and dysfunction. I'd worked a double shift the night before, multiple trauma cases from a highway pileup, and showed up to my parents' house exhausted, my hair still damp from the hospital shower. Victoria's Mercedes was already in the driveway next to Derek's Tesla. My Toyota looked pathetic in comparison. Paya. Mom opened the door, hugging me quickly. We were worried you'd have to work through Christmas. I made it. Victoria's showing everyone photos from the venue in Italy. The wedding is going to be spectacular. I followed her inside, where Victoria was holding court in the living room, laptop open, showing drone footage of a Tuscan villa. And the reception will be in the vineyard, she was saying to my aunt and uncle. 200 guests. The photographer alone cost more than. She noticed me. Oh, Maya. You made it. Merry Christmas. Still playing doctor with your books? She gestured to the medical journal sticking out of my bag. Do you ever stop studying? Emergency medicine requires constant learning. Such dedication, she said in a tone that made it sound like criticism. Must be exhausting still being in training at 30. Aunt Linda frowned. I thought you finished residency? She did, Victoria answered for me. But she's still supervised. Still not trusted to make real decisions independently. Right, Maya? Something like that, I said. Derek patted the couch. Come sit. Tell us about the hospital. It must be exciting assisting with emergencies. I don't really assist. She's being modest, Victoria interrupted. Maya, you've been in medicine for what, 8 years now? And you're still basically an intern. There's nothing wrong with that. Not everyone can be exceptional. Uncle Tom looked confused. But didn't you say? The training period for emergency medicine is extensive, I said. How extensive? Dad asked. When will you actually be a doctor? I am a doctor. You know what he means, Victoria said. When will you be independent? When will you stop being supervised like a medical student? The hospital structure is complicated. She won't give a straight answer, Victoria told everyone, because the truth is embarrassing. She's 30, still being told what to do, still making terrible money, still living like a college student. Derek squeezed her hand. Honey, maybe. I'm being honest. Someone needs to be. Maya's wasted her entire 20s chasing something that clearly isn't working out. He turned to me. How much debt are you in? 300,000? For. I had scholarships. Scholarships don't cover everything. And what's your salary? 60,000? I made that when I was 24. Mom appeared from the kitchen. Dinner's almost ready. I'm just trying to help, Victoria said. Maya needs to hear the truth. Playing doctor with books and dreaming about being some kind of medical hero isn't a career. It's a fantasy. I stood. I'll help set the table. There she goes, Victoria said to the room. Can't handle honest feedback. In the kitchen, Mom handed me plates. She means well. She worries about you. Does she? You have been in school a very long time, sweetheart. Medical training is lengthy. I know, but... She lowered her voice. Don't you ever wonder if she's right? If maybe this isn't the path for you? I set the plates down carefully. No. Because there's no shame in changing direction. You could use your medical knowledge in so many other ways. Medical writing, pharmaceutical sales, hospital administration. I'm an emergency medicine physician. That's what I am. She looked puzzled but dropped it. Dinner was the usual performance. Victoria talked about wedding planning, the honeymoon in Greece, Derek's promotion at his company. Dad discussed his golf game. Mom praised Victoria's success and worried aloud about my future. Maya should be thinking about relationships, Aunt Linda suggested. 30 is a good age to settle down. She's married to her job, Victoria said. Or at least married to the fantasy of her job. Hard to date when you're working 100 hours a week for poverty wages. I work 80 hours, I corrected quietly. Oh, excuse me. 80 hours of being told what to do and running around fetching things for actual doctors. I cut my ham into precise pieces. How much longer? Dad asked. Until you're finished with training? I'm not in training anymore. Oh. Mom brightened. So now you're finally a real doctor? I've been a real doctor for 6 years. Victoria laughed. Technically. On paper. But you're not independent, right? Still being supervised? Still having someone check your work. The hospital has oversight procedures for all. My phone buzzed. Then again. Then started ringing. I glanced down. St. Catherine's Emergency Department. Multiple calls. Work emergency, I said standing. See. Victoria gestured with her fork. This is your life. Called away from Christmas because some actual doctor needs their assistant. I stepped into the hallway answering. Dr. Chin, we have a situation. It was Dr. Rodriguez, one of my attending physicians. His voice was tight. 27-year-old female, severe abdominal pain, possible appendicitis but presentation is atypical. Vitals are deteriorating. I need you here. My mind immediately clicked into gear. Vitals. BP 95/62 and dropping, HR 118, fever 101.3. Started as appendicitis symptoms but now showing signs of septic shock. We need to make a call fast. I'm 15 minutes out. Start broad-spectrum antibiotics, get surgery on standby and run a CT with contrast. I'll be there in 10. Already ordered. Dr. Chin. He paused. The patient's name is Victoria Williams. Everything stopped. What? She came in about 20 minutes ago. Boyfriend brought her. Said she's been having pain all day but thought it was just food poisoning. She's your emergency contact in her phone. I hung up and walked back to the dining room. Everyone was laughing at something Derek had said. Victoria, I said quietly. She looked up annoyed. What? Have you been having abdominal pain today? Just some cramping. Too much wine last night probably. Why? Where exactly is the pain? Lower right side. It's fine. She winced suddenly. Just uncomfortable. Any fever? Nausea? She frowned. I felt a little warm earlier but Victoria, why are you? We need to go to the hospital. Now. The room went silent. Then Victoria laughed. What? Oh. It's Christmas. I'm fine. You're showing symptoms of appendicitis. Possibly ruptured. We need to go immediately. Appendicitis? Don't be dramatic. I have a sensitive stomach. This is classic Maya, trying to make everything a medical emergency. Victoria, I'm serious. No. He turned to Derek. This is exactly what I was talking about. She's been playing doctor for so long she thinks she can diagnose people at Christmas dinner. Derek looked uncertain. Honey, you have been complaining about pain. It's nothing. Maya's just trying to feel important. My phone rang again. I answered. Dr. Chin, where are you? Dr. Rodriguez was urgent now. We have Victoria Williams here. Wait. The boyfriend says she's at Christmas dinner. Are there 2 Victoria Williams? I'm coming. She's with me. She needs to get here now. If it's a ruptured appendix. I know. I'm bringing her. I hung up and looked at Victoria. Her face had gone slightly pale and there was sweat on her forehead. Victoria, there's a woman in the emergency room with your name who needs immediate surgery. Either it's a crazy coincidence or you need medical attention right now. She stood up, wobbling slightly. This is insane. I feel fine. It's just, she gasped, hand going to her side. It's just cramps. But her breathing was shallow and her lips looked pale. Mom, Dad, get your coats, I said. Now wait just a minute, Dad started. Now. Something in my voice made everyone move. Victoria tried to protest but stumbled. Derek caught her. Okay, she breathed. Okay, maybe I don't feel great. We got her to Derek's Tesla. I sat in back with Victoria, monitoring her pulse, watching her breathing. Mom and Dad followed in their car. "This is embarrassing," Victoria muttered. "It's going to be nothing. Gas or something." "Maybe," I agreed, counting her heartbeats. "Too fast. Too weak. You're going to look ridiculous when they send me home." "I hope so." We pulled up to St. Catherine's ER entrance. I helped Victoria out and immediately 2 nurses appeared with a wheelchair. "Dr. Chin?" one asked. "Yes." "This is Victoria Williams. Acute abdominal pain showing signs of septic shock. She needs immediate evaluation." They moved fast, wheeling her through the doors. Victoria looked back at me, suddenly frightened. "Why, I'm right here." We entered the ER and Dr. Rodriguez rushed toward us. "Dr. Chin, thank God. We have our 3 ready." He stopped, staring at Victoria in the wheelchair. "Wait, this is your sister?" I thought. "Long story. Status. CT is ready, but based on presentation, I'm 90% sure it's a ruptured appendix with peritonitis. She needs emergency surgery." Victoria's eyes found mine. "Surgery? Your appendix likely ruptured. Infection is spreading. Without surgery you could go into septic shock." "But I just have cramps." "That's what a ruptured appendix feels like at first." The nurses were already moving, attaching monitors, starting IVs. The machines began beeping urgently. "BP dropping," a nurse announced. "She's going into shock." Dr. Rodriguez was calling orders. "Get surgery down here stat, call anesthesia." "I'm already here," I said quietly. He stared at me. "You're working tonight?" "I'm on call every night. I'm the chief of emergency medicine." The ER went silent except for the monitors. Victoria made a choking sound. "Chief." "Yes. But you're just a resident." "I was a resident. 4 years ago. I'm the chief now." Dr. Rodriguez recovered quickly. "Dr. Chin, she needs emergency surgery. The general surgeon on call is Dr. Patterson. Page him." "But I'm making the calls on her care." The nurses were rolling Victoria toward imaging. "Why, Victoria's voice was small. "What's happening?" I walked beside the gurney. "You have a ruptured appendix. It's serious but treatable. You need surgery immediately and you need antibiotics to fight the infection." "But you're not actually." "I'm the chief of emergency medicine at this hospital. I've been chief for 4 months. Before that, I was an attending emergency physician for 3 years. Before that, I completed my residency in emergency medicine with honors." "Chief." "Yes. You're in charge of my care? I'm going to make sure you get the best care possible." We reached the CT scanner. My team was already assembled. Nurses I'd worked with for years, technicians I trusted, physicians who knew my protocols. Dr. Chin, my head nurse, James, appeared with a tablet. "CT is ready. Dr. Patterson is scrubbing in. Family notification. Her fiancé is in the waiting room. My parents as well. Have someone brief them." Derek burst through the doors, Mom and Dad behind him. "What's happening? Is she okay?" "Maya, what?" "She has a ruptured appendix with peritonitis," I explained. "She needs emergency surgery to remove the appendix and clean out the infection. It's serious, but the survival rate is excellent with immediate intervention." Derek stared at me. "You're going to, but you're not a." "She's the chief of emergency medicine," Dr. Rodriguez said quietly. "One of the best EM physicians in the state." Mom made a sound like she'd been punched. "There's paperwork," I told Derek. "Consent forms. The nurses will explain everything. The surgery should take about an hour." "But," Derek looked between me and Victoria, who was being prepped for the CT. "But at dinner, you said you were just." "I didn't say anything at dinner," I corrected gently. "You all assumed." Victoria reached for my hand. "Why, I'm scared." I squeezed her hand once. "I know. But you're going to be fine. Dr. Patterson is an excellent surgeon and I'll be overseeing everything." "I'm sorry. All those things I said. We'll talk after. Right now, I need you to focus on getting through this. I was so wrong about you. CT first. Apologies later." The technician approached. "Dr. Chin, we're ready." I nodded and stepped back as they took Victoria for imaging. Dad grabbed my arm. "Why, is she really going to be okay?" Ruptured appendix is serious, but we caught it early enough. She'll need surgery and several days in the hospital, but her prognosis is very good. You're really the chief? Yes. Mom was crying. Why didn't you tell us? You never asked. You all assumed I was failing and I was too tired to correct you. Derek looked stricken. All those things we said at dinner. We'll deal with that later. Right now Victoria is my priority. The CT results came back fast. Ruptured appendix, significant peritonitis, early sepsis. Dr. Patterson met me in the viewing room. Nasty one. She's lucky she came in when she did. Let's get her to surgery. You want to observe? I want to be in there. He nodded. I'd be honored to have the chief observing. The surgery took 90 minutes. Ruptured appendix removed, abdomen thoroughly irrigated, drains placed. It was complicated by the infection, but Dr. Patterson's work was excellent. I stood at the back of the OR watching, making notes, available if needed. When we finally emerged, my family was in the surgical waiting room. They stood when they saw me. She's stable, I said. Surgery went well. The appendix was ruptured and there was significant infection, but we cleaned it out thoroughly. She'll need 4 antibiotics and close monitoring, but she should make a full recovery. Derek's legs nearly gave out. Mom grabbed Dad's hand. Can we see her? Derek asked. In about an hour. She needs to wake up from anesthesia. Aunt Linda appeared from somewhere, staring at me like she'd never seen me before. Why, you're the chief. Yes. Of the entire emergency department? Of emergency medicine at this hospital, yes. But you never said. You never asked what I actually did. You all assumed I was barely getting by and I didn't bother to correct you. Dad sat down heavily. All those dinners. All those conversations. All those years of Victoria telling me I was playing doctor, I said quietly. All those years of being told I wasn't good enough, smart enough, capable enough. And none of you ever asked me about my actual job. You just assumed she was right. Mom was shaking. We thought you were struggling. I wasn't struggling. I was succeeding. But it was easier to let you believe whatever made you comfortable than to constantly defend myself. Why? Mom whispered. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? Or would Victoria have found some way to make it sound less impressive than her marketing job? No one answered. A nurse appeared. Dr. Chin? Your sister is waking up. Her fiancé can see her now. Derek followed the nurse, still looking shell-shocked. I sat down across from my parents. I'm sorry, Dad said finally. For not asking. For assuming. For letting Victoria. For 10 years, I said. 10 years of Christmas dinners and Sunday meals and family gatherings, and not once did any of you actually ask me about my work. Not really. You thought I was wasting my life. You thought Victoria was right. You thought I should give up and get a real job in hospital administration or pharmaceutical sales. Aunt Linda sat beside me. For what it's worth, I'm incredibly proud of you. Thank you. And I'm sorry. We all just assumed. Victoria was so confident and you were so quiet about your work. I was quiet because I was working 80-hour weeks saving people's lives, I said. I was quiet because I was exhausted. I was quiet because defending myself to you took energy I needed for my patients. Mom sat on my other side. What can we do? How do we fix this? I don't know if you can. Why, I just saved Victoria's life. Without this hospital, without emergency surgery, she would have died from septic shock. But at dinner, just hours before her appendix ruptured, she was telling me I was playing doctor, that I wasn't good enough for medicine. I looked at her. Do you understand how that feels? She started crying harder. I need to check on my patient, I said, standing. Dad stood too. Maya, wait. Please. We're sorry. We're so sorry. Yes, I agreed. You should be. I walked away, leaving them in the waiting room. Victoria woke up groggy, tubes and monitors everywhere, Derek holding her hand. Hey, I said, checking her vitals. How are you feeling? Like someone cut me open. Someone did. Dr. Patterson. I supervised. She tried to laugh, winced. Why? I'm so sorry. Your apologies can wait. Right now you need to focus on recovery. All those things I said. All those years. Victoria, you just had emergency surgery for a ruptured appendix with peritonitis. We'll talk when you're stronger. Derek squeezed her hand. She saved your life. The doctor said if you'd waited another hour. I know. Her eyes filled with tears. I know. You'll be here for about a week, I said clinically. 4 antibiotics, wound care, monitoring for complications. The team will go over everything with you tomorrow. Will you be my doctor? I'll oversee your care, yes. I don't deserve. You're my sister. That's all that matters right now. She nodded, exhausted. I adjusted her made notes on her chart. Get some rest. I'll check on you in the morning. As I left, I heard Derek whisper, I can't believe we didn't know. How did we not know? Because I was too busy tearing her down, Victoria said. Too busy feeling superior. 5 days later, Victoria was stable enough for a real conversation. I found her sitting up in bed, reading on her tablet. You made the local news, she said without preamble. What? She turned the screen toward me. Chief of Emergency Medicine saves sister's life after years of family underestimating her career. I groaned. Who talked to the press? Derek, I think. He was trying to, I don't know, make it right somehow. It got picked up by a bunch of news sites. Great. Maya, sit down. Please. I sat. I was wrong, she said. About everything. I was jealous. Jealous. You were always the determined one. The one who actually worked for things. I coasted through college, fell into marketing because I was good at presentations, got lucky with companies that were growing. But you earned everything. Victoria. And instead of being proud of my little sister, I spent 10 years making myself feel better by convincing everyone, including myself, that you were failing. I didn't know what to say. I measured success by salary and job titles and square footage. And by those measures I looked more successful. But you were saving lives. You were becoming one of the top emergency medicine physicians in the state. And I was selling software. Your career is valuable. It's not the same, Maya. And I knew it. Deep down I always knew it. That's why I had to keep tearing you down. Because if I admitted what you were really accomplishing, I'd have to face the fact that my success was shallow in comparison. You're being too hard on yourself. No, I'm being honest for the first time in 10 years. She met my eyes. You're chief of emergency medicine at 30. Do you know how exceptional that is? It's just a title. It's not just a title. I looked it up. Most people don't make chief until their 40s. You're literally one of the youngest department chiefs in the state. You've published research. You're training other doctors. You're saving lives every single day. Victoria. And I have a marketing job. You're a vice president of selling software. Maya, I'm not saying my job doesn't matter. But when you put them side by side, actually put them side by side, there's no comparison. You're doing work that actually saves lives. That actually matters in a fundamental way. I stayed quiet. Mom and Dad want to talk to you, she said. They've been here every day. They're devastated. I don't know what to say to them. I don't know what to say to you. But I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to make up for being the worst sister in the world. You weren't the worst. Maya, I told you that you were wasting your life playing doctor. Then you saved my actual life using your actual medical expertise as chief of an entire department. I was objectively, measurably the worst. Despite everything, I smiled slightly. I'm in therapy, she said. Starting next week. Individual sessions. Trying to figure out why I needed to diminish you to feel good about myself. That's good. And I'm going to tell everyone, what an incredible doctor you are. What a brilliant emergency physician. What an accomplished chief. I'm going to make sure everyone knows the truth. You don't have to. Yes, I do. Because I spent 10 years telling everyone you were failing. I need to spend at least that long telling them the truth. I stood, checking her surgical site, her vitals. Your recovery is progressing well. You should be able to go home in a couple days. Will you come to Sunday dinners? After I'm recovered? I don't know. I understand. I moved toward the door. Maya. I turned back. Thank you, she said quietly, for saving my life. Even after everything I said. Even after 10 years of me being cruel. Thank you. You're my sister, I said. That doesn't change. 3 weeks later, Victoria called me. Hey, can we talk? I'm between shifts. What's up? I wanted to tell you something. I cancelled the Italy wedding. What? Why? Because it was about showing off. About proving I was more successful than you. About making mom and dad proud of me by throwing money around. She paused. We're doing something smaller. More intimate. More honest. Victoria, you don't have to. And I want you to be my maid of honor. I was quiet. I know I don't deserve it. I know I've been terrible to you. But you're my sister and I love you and I want you standing next to me when I get married. Not because you're supposed to, but because I actually want you there. I'll think about it. That's fair. Take your time. How are you feeling? Any pain? No, I'm good. Following all the post-op instructions. Dr. Patterson says I'm healing perfectly. Good. Why, Her voice got quiet. I mean it. About the therapy, about being better, about everything. I'm going to do better. I know. Sunday dinner next week? No pressure. But we'd all like to see you. I'll think about that too. Hey. Love you. Love you too. Sunday dinner was tentative. Everyone was careful watching what they said. Mom kept tearing up. Dad kept trying to ask about work, then stopping himself. Victoria said very little, just watched me with this new expression. Respect mixed with regret. But Derek broke the ice. Dr. Chin, can I ask you something? When Victoria came into the year, how did you know so fast it was serious? She just said she had cramps. I explained the signs of acute abdomen, the progression of appendicitis, the symptoms of sepsis. Then Dad asked about emergency medicine training. Then Aunt Linda asked about the difference between ER doctors and surgeons. Then Mom asked about my typical day. Real questions. Genuine interest. Victoria listened quietly, her hand over her incision, over the scar where emergency surgery had saved her life. I'm proud of you, Mom said suddenly. I should have said that 10 years ago. I should have said it every single day. I'm so proud of you. Thank you, I said. We failed you, Dad added. We failed to see what you were accomplishing. We failed to support you. We failed to defend you. Yes, I agreed. You did. Can we do better? Mom asked. Is it too late? I looked around the table. At my family, flawed and human and trying. It's not too late, I said. But it's going to take time. We have time, Victoria said. Thanks to you, we have lots of time. Derek squeezed her hand and everyone nodded. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't fixed. But it was a start. 6 months later, I was finishing a shift when my pager went off. Trauma incoming. What do we have? I asked the nurse. Multi-vehicle accident. 3 critical patients incoming. 2 minutes. Prep trauma bays 1, 2, and 3. Get surgery on standby. The ambulances arrived. Chaos and blood and the controlled urgency of emergency medicine. I moved between patients, directing care, making split-second decisions, doing what I'd trained my entire adult life to do. Dr. Chin. One of the paramedics approached. Just wanted to say, my sister had a ruptured appendix last year. Saw the news about you saving your sister. Made me think about how important it is to take abdominal pain seriously. We got her to the ER in time because of that story. I smiled. I'm glad she's okay. She wanted me to thank you. Said to tell Dr. Chin that Chief of Emergency Medicine suits you. As I walked back to the trauma bay, my phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. Good luck with your shift. And Maya? Thank you. For everything. I smiled and put my phone away. Then I went back to doing what I do best. I saved lives. I was 12 when my brother Marcus won the National Science Fair with his project on renewable energy systems. The governor presented him with the award. Local news stations interviewed our family. Dad hung the trophy in his office, right above his own PhD diploma from MIT. I was 12 when I entered the same science fair with my project on quantum entanglement patterns. I didn't win. The judges said my presentation was confusing, and my methodology was unclear. Mom patted my shoulder afterward and said, "Science isn't for everyone, honey. You tried your best." Marcus went on to study physics at Princeton. I went to the local state university because Dad said anything else would be wasting money on someone without aptitude. I studied on a partial scholarship, working 30 hours a week at a campus bookstore to cover the rest. At least you're practical, Mom would tell relatives when they asked about my education. Not everyone can be a genius like Marcus. What they didn't know was that I was taking graduate-level physics courses by my sophomore year. My professors kept pulling me aside, asking why I wasn't applying to better programs, why I was hiding in a mid-tier state school when I was solving problems that stumped their PhD candidates. Family stuff, I'd say, not wanting to explain that my parents had already decided I wasn't worth the investment. Professor Walsh, who taught my quantum mechanics course, changed everything. He caught me after class one day during my junior year. Elena, I've been teaching for 32 years. I've seen maybe 5 students with your level of intuitive understanding of quantum systems. You're seeing things the rest of the field hasn't caught up to yet. Why aren't you pursuing this seriously? I am pursuing it seriously. Not here. You need to be at Stanford, MIT, Caltech. Somewhere with the resources to match your mind. I laughed. My parents would never support that. They've already decided I'm the practical child. Then do it without their support. I'm writing you a recommendation letter. You're applying to Stanford's PhD program. Their quantum computing lab is the best in the world and you belong there. I applied that night, alone in my apartment, knowing my family would mock me if they found out. The application asked about my research interests. I wrote about something I'd been thinking about for years. A theoretical framework for stabilizing quantum states at room temperature, which would revolutionize quantum computing. Every expert said it was impossible. The laws of physics made it impossible. I thought they were wrong. Stanford accepted me with a full fellowship. They offered me a position in the quantum computing lab under Dr. Raymond Chin, one of the most respected physicists in the field. The stipend was more than my parents made combined. I called home to share the news. Dad answered. Stanford? For what? PhD program in quantum physics. Full fellowship. Silence. Then, Elena, this is ridiculous. You're not Stanford material. They probably accepted you by mistake or to fill some quota. You should decline before you embarrass yourself. I'm going. With what money? We're certainly not paying for you to waste time pretending to understand physics when Marcus is the one with actual talent in this family. They're paying me. Full fellowship plus research stipend. More silence. Then Mom's voice in the background. Let her try. She'll wash out in a semester and come home. Better she learns her limitations now. I hung up and never asked them for anything again. My first year at Stanford was brutal. Not because the work was too hard, but because I was surrounded by people whose families believed in them, who had resources, who'd come from prestigious undergraduate programs. I was the state school kid, the one everyone assumed was there to diversify the cohort, not because I belonged. I let them think whatever they wanted. I was too busy working. Dr. Chen's lab focused on quantum coherence, keeping quantum states stable long enough to perform computations. The field had hit a wall. Quantum computers existed, but they only worked at temperatures near absolute zero, requiring massive cooling systems. Room temperature quantum computing was considered science fiction. I thought it was just an engineering problem waiting for the right theoretical framework. You're chasing a fantasy, one of my fellow PhD students, Jason, told me during my second year. Every physicist for the last 50 years has tried to solve room temperature quantum computing. It's thermodynamically impossible. Only because we're approaching it wrong, I said. Sure. You, the girl from Nowhere State College, have figured out what Einstein, Feynman, and every quantum physicist since couldn't. That's realistic. I stopped talking to Jason about my research. Dr. Chen was different. He listened. The field assumes we need to fight thermal noise, I explained during one of our meetings. What if instead we harness it? Use the thermal energy itself to stabilize the quantum states through a feedback mechanism. He stroked his beard, thoughtful. That's unorthodox. Potentially revolutionary or potentially nonsense. I can't tell which. Let me try. Elena, if you're wrong, you'll waste years of your PhD on a dead end. Your career could be over before it starts. And if I'm right? He smiled. Then you'll change the world. All right. Let's see what you can do. I spent the next 3 years building the theoretical framework, running simulations, testing small-scale prototypes. I failed 847 times. Each failure taught me something. Each breakdown revealed a new piece of the puzzle. My family never asked about my research. When I called home, rarely, the conversation always turned to Marcus. He'd graduated from Princeton and was now doing his postdoc at CERN working on the Large Hadron Collider. Mom sent mass emails updating the extended family on his latest papers, his speaking engagements, his rising status in the physics community. My name was mentioned in passing, if at all. Elena's still at Stanford doing her student thing. My student thing was working 16-hour days in the lab, slowly building a system that everyone said was impossible. Year 4 of my PhD I had a breakthrough. The simulation worked. The theoretical model held. The math was perfect. I'd found a way to use controlled thermal fluctuations to stabilize quantum entanglement at room temperature, creating a feedback loop that maintained coherence indefinitely. Dr. Chin stared at my results for an hour straight, checking and rechecking the math. Elena, if this works in practice, if you can build a working prototype, this is Nobel Prize level work. This is rewriting physics. Let's build it. The prototype took 8 months. We worked in secret, knowing that if word got out and we failed, I'd be laughed out of academia. Jason found out anyway and made sure everyone in the department knew I was wasting resources on science fiction. The day we tested the prototype, Dr. Chin invited 3 colleagues, experts in quantum computing, thermodynamics, and experimental physics. They came expecting to witness an expensive failure. I powered up the system. Room temperature. No cooling systems. Just the quantum chip, my thermal regulation framework, and the feedback mechanism I designed. The quantum state stabilized. Held coherence. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. The longest anyone had maintained quantum coherence at room temperature before was 0.003 seconds. We ran for 5 minutes straight before I shut it down. One of the visiting professors dropped his coffee. That's impossible. It's physics, I said. Just different physics than we've been using. The room erupted. They were all talking at once, demanding to see the code, the hardware specs, the theoretical framework. Dr. Chin was quietly crying in the corner. We need to publish immediately, one professor said. This is the biggest breakthrough in quantum computing history. Every tech company in the world will want this. Every government. Do you understand what you've created? Unbreakable encryption, quantum networks that work at room temperature, quantum computers that can fit in a smartphone. You've just made quantum computing practical. You've just changed everything. We submitted the paper to Nature that night. Peer review took 3 months. 3 months where I couldn't tell anyone, couldn't share, couldn't celebrate. I called home once during that time. Marcus answered. Elena. Haven't heard from you in months. Still playing student at Stanford. Still here. Must be nice having such a light workload. I'm working 80-hour weeks at CERN. Real physics is demanding. I'm sure. Mom and Dad are coming to Geneva next month for my presentation to the European Physics Society. You should come if you can afford the ticket. See what actual high-level research looks like. I hung up before I said something I'd regret. The Nature paper published on a Thursday morning in October. By Thursday afternoon my email had 4,000 messages. Stanford's press office was fielding calls from every major news outlet in the world. The physics community was in an uproar. Friday morning the calls started. Apple, Google, Microsoft. They wanted licensing agreements, exclusive partnerships, whatever it took to get access to my technology. The numbers being thrown around were staggering. We're prepared to offer $3.2 billion for exclusive rights, a Microsoft executive said during one call, with additional royalties that could exceed $10 billion over the next decade. Dr. Chin sat beside me during these calls, equally stunned. Elena, you realize you're about to become one of the wealthiest physicists alive? I just wanted to solve the problem. By Monday the bidding war had reached $5.8 billion. A consortium of tech companies, Apple, Google, IBM, and Samsung, had pooled resources to acquire the licensing rights. Stanford would get a significant portion. Dr. Chen's lab would be fully funded for the next 20 years, and my share would still be over $2 billion. I was 28 years old. I'd just become a billionaire by solving an impossible problem in my university lab. The university scheduled a press conference for Tuesday afternoon. Every major news outlet sent camera crews. The auditorium was packed with physicists, journalists, tech executives, and curious students. Dean Morrison introduced me. Dr. Elena Rodriguez has achieved what the entire field of quantum physics thought impossible. Her breakthrough will fundamentally transform computing, cryptography, telecommunications, and countless other fields. She represents the absolute pinnacle of scientific achievement. I took the podium and explained my research in terms non-physicists could understand. The questions lasted 2 hours. When I mentioned that I'd conceived the core theory during my undergraduate years at a state school, a murmur went through the crowd. Did anyone support this research early on? A journalist asked. My undergraduate professor, Dr. Walsh, believed in me. And Dr. Chin gave me the lab space and freedom to pursue what everyone else said was impossible. That's all I needed. What about your family? They must be incredibly proud. I smiled politely. I haven't told them yet. They don't really follow my work. That quote made headlines. Billionaire physicist's family didn't know about her world-changing discovery. My phone started ringing that evening. My parents' number. I let it go to voicemail. 15 more calls. I turned my phone off. The emails came next. Elena, we saw the news. Call us immediately. We're so proud of you. Why didn't you tell us? Your father wants to discuss your options. I ignored them all. Wednesday morning I was on Good Morning America via satellite. The host asked about my family. I told the truth. They didn't think I was capable of real science. My brother is a physicist at CERN, very accomplished, and he was always the family genius. I was the practical one, the one who wasn't quite smart enough for serious academic work. They told me not to apply to Stanford because I'd embarrass myself. So I didn't tell them when I succeeded. I didn't need their validation. The interview went viral. Social media exploded with stories from other scientists whose families had doubted them. Science is for everyone who has the passion and dedication, I said in a follow-up interview. Not just the people whose families believe in them from the start. Thursday afternoon my parents showed up at Stanford. Security called my lab. They're insisting they need to see you. They say it's urgent family business. I sighed. Send them to the coffee shop across from the physics building. I'll meet them there in an hour. I made them wait 90 minutes. When I finally arrived, they were at a corner table looking uncomfortable and out of place among the students and professors. Elena. Dad stood up. We've been trying to reach you for days. I've been busy. The press tour, patent filings, negotiations with the tech consortium. You know, the usual things for someone who's not smart enough for real science. Mom flinched. We never said that. You said exactly that. Multiple times. You said I'd embarrass myself at Stanford. You said I was wasting time pretending to understand physics. You told relatives I was playing student while Marcus did real research. Should I continue? We didn't understand what you were working on, Dad said. You never explained it properly. I tried. For years. You weren't interested. You'd already decided Marcus was the physicist in the family and I was the kid who worked retail. Even after I got into Stanford, one of the most competitive physics programs in the world, you assumed it was a mistake. We were trying to protect you, Mom said. We didn't want you to set yourself up for failure in a field where Marcus was already so successful. We thought you'd always be competing with him, always falling short. So instead you made sure I knew from age 12 that I wasn't good enough? That's protection. Dad's jaw tightened. We're your parents. We deserve respect. You're people who share my DNA. You didn't earn respect through your parenting. You earned exactly what you gave me, dismissal and doubt. That's not fair, Mom said. We supported you. We paid for your undergraduate. You paid partial tuition after making it clear it was a waste of money. I worked 30 hours a week to cover the rest. Meanwhile, Marcus got everything paid for, plus a car, plus spending money because his education was an investment. Mine was charity. We're proud of you now, Dad said. Can't that be enough? Proud of what? The $5.8 billion? The Nature paper? The press coverage? You're not proud of me. You're impressed by my accomplishments because they're so big you can't ignore them. But you were never proud of the person who did the work. The student who stayed up until 3 a.m. running simulations. The researcher who failed 847 times and kept trying. You didn't believe in that person. What do you want from us? Mom asked. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I wanted your belief in me when I was 17 and applying to colleges. I wanted your support when I was 23 and starting my PhD. I wanted you to ask about my research, to be curious about what I was working on, to care about my life beyond checking if I'd embarrassed the family yet. But I don't want anything from you now. Elena, please, Dad said. We're family. Family is more than biology. Family is the people who show up. Professor Walsh showed up. Dr. Chin showed up. My lab colleagues showed up. You showed up when there were cameras and billion-dollar contracts. That's not family. That's opportunism. I stood up to leave. Marcus wants to talk to you, Mom said. He's been calling. I'm sure he has. Now that I'm not the embarrassing little sister, he probably wants to collaborate, get his name on my research, benefit from the attention. Tell him I'm not interested. He's your brother. He's a stranger who happens to be related to me. Just like you're strangers who happen to have raised me. You taught me that love is conditional, that pride must be earned through achievements you deem worthy. Congratulations. I earned achievements so significant you can't ignore them. But I don't need your love or pride anymore. I outgrew that need while you were busy celebrating Marcus and forgetting I existed. I walked out of the coffee shop and back to my lab. My phone was ringing again. I blocked their numbers. The tech consortium finalized the licensing agreement the following week. The press coverage was relentless. Time magazine cover story. Forbes profile. TED Talk invitation. The Nobel Committee's office had informally reached out, according to Stanford's president, though the official announcement wouldn't come for months. My research team expanded to 20 scientists. Stanford built us a new quantum computing facility, state-of-the-art, funded by my patent revenues. We were already working on the next generation of applications. Quantum networks, unbreakable encryption protocols, medical imaging systems that could see individual molecules. You've created an entirely new field, Dr. Chin told me during a lab meeting. Practical quantum computing. Every physics student in the world will study your framework. You're going to be in textbooks, Elena. Your name will be mentioned alongside Einstein and Feynman. It felt surreal. I was the girl from the mid-tier state school, the one who wasn't supposed to understand real science, building a research empire that was changing the world. Marcus showed up at my lab 3 weeks after the coffee shop incident. Security called again. Tell him I'm in a meeting. He says he'll wait. He's been here for 2 hours already. I sighed and went down to the lobby. Marcus was sitting on a bench, looking smaller than I remembered. The confident golden child now looked uncertain, almost nervous. Elena. You're persistent. I'll give you that. Can we talk? Please. 5 minutes. We walked outside to the campus quad. Students passed by, some recognizing me and whispering to their friends. The weird reality of being famous in physics circles. I'm sorry, Marcus said. For everything. For all the years I let them build me up by tearing you down. For not defending you. For not seeing what you were capable of. Okay. That's all. What do you want, Marcus? Absolution. A relationship where we pretend you weren't complicit in making me feel inadequate for 15 years? I don't have time for that. I was young. I didn't understand what they were doing, how it affected you. You were 3 years older than me. Old enough to know better. Old enough to see that they treated us differently. You benefited from that difference, so you stayed quiet. That's not ignorance. That's choice. He was quiet for a moment. I read your Nature paper. 3 times. It's brilliant. Beyond brilliant. It's the kind of work I've dreamed of doing my whole career. And you did it alone, without support, because you were that determined to prove yourself. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I was trying to solve a problem. I'm at CERN working on incremental improvements to existing particle physics models. Important work, but ultimately small. You've revolutionized an entire field. You've done what I've always wanted to do, change physics forever. And I can't help thinking that if Mom and Dad had believed in you the way they believed in me, if I had supported you instead of accepting my role as the golden child, you could have done this years earlier. How many other breakthroughs did we cost you by making you fight for every scrap of validation? That's not my problem to solve for you, Marcus. Your guilt is yours to carry. I know. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what they did, what I allowed. And I'm sorry. Thank you for the apology. But it doesn't change anything. You're still the brother who told me I was playing student while you did real physics. You're still the person who never once asked about my research, never defended me, never questioned why our parents treated us so differently. Your regret now doesn't give me back those years. Can I at least follow your work? Read your papers. They're public. You don't need my permission. I walked back to my lab, leaving him standing in the quad. The Nobel Prize announcement came in October. Nobel Prize in Physics for groundbreaking contributions to quantum mechanics and the development of room-temperature quantum computing systems. I was the youngest woman to ever win it. The ceremony in Stockholm was surreal. Royalty, world leaders, the greatest minds in science, all gathered to celebrate achievements that pushed human knowledge forward. I wore a custom gown, gave my acceptance speech in front of a global television audience, attended the formal banquet. My parents sent flowers to my hotel. The card read, "We always knew you were special." I left the flowers in the room when I checked out. After Stockholm, I was invited to speak at physics departments around the world. MIT, Cambridge, Oxford, Tokyo. Students asked how I'd made my breakthrough, what advice I had for young physicists. Don't wait for permission to do great work, I told them. Don't wait for someone to tell you you're smart enough, talented enough, worthy enough. If you have a question that won't let you sleep, if you see a problem that others say is impossible, chase it. Even if everyone doubts you. Especially if everyone doubts you. The greatest discoveries come from people who refuse to accept that something can't be done. A young woman approached me after one lecture, tears in her eyes. My family says physics isn't for girls. That I should choose something more practical. But I love it. I can't imagine doing anything else. Then do physics. Not to prove them wrong. Not to earn their approval. Do it because you love it, because you can't imagine doing anything else. That's reason enough. He hugged me. Thank you. You're the reason I believe I can do this. Dozens of students told me similar stories. Families who doubted them, advisors who dismissed them, colleagues who underestimated them. They saw themselves in my story. The overlooked, the underestimated, the ones who succeeded despite everyone's doubts. I became something I never expected. A symbol. Not just of scientific achievement, but of succeeding without validation, of believing in yourself when no one else does. The quantum computing facility at Stanford became the most prestigious research lab in the world. We had applications from thousands of PhD candidates every year. I chose students who reminded me of who I'd been. The ones from unknown schools, the ones whose families didn't understand their work, the ones with brilliant ideas and no support system. You belong here, I told each new student on their first day. Not because of where you came from or who believed in you before. But because you have questions worth answering and the determination to answer them. That's all you need. My parents tried to reconnect over the years. Emails. Phone calls. Letters. They wanted to be part of my life now that my life was impressive enough to brag about. I responded politely but distantly. Thank you for reaching out. I'm very busy with research. I hope you're well. Christmas cards came every year. We miss you. We love you. We're so proud. I sent generic cards back. Happy holidays. Best wishes for the new year. They wanted me to forgive them, to let them back in, to give them credit for my success. We raised you to be strong, one of Dad's letters said. Our tough love made you who you are. I never responded to that one. They didn't make me who I am. They showed me who I'd have to become despite them. 5 years after the Nobel Prize, I was invited to give the commencement speech at Stanford. I stood before thousands of graduates and their families, including hundreds of physics PhDs starting their careers. You're about to enter a world that will doubt you, I told them. That will question your abilities, your worth, your right to be in the room where decisions are made. Some of that doubt will come from strangers. Some will come from colleagues. And some, perhaps the most painful, will come from the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally. Here's what I learned. You don't need their belief to succeed. You don't need their validation to do extraordinary work. You need curiosity, determination, and the courage to pursue questions others say are impossible. So, the people who doubt you now will celebrate you later when your success becomes too big to ignore. They'll want to claim they always knew you'd make it, that they always believed in you. Let them say whatever they need to say. But remember who showed up when success wasn't guaranteed. Remember who believed in you when you were nobody. Those are the people who matter. Those are your real family. The graduates stood and applauded. I saw parents crying in the audience, some with pride, some perhaps with regret, recognizing themselves in my words. After the ceremony, a man approached me. Distinguished, in his 60s, with kind eyes. Dr. Rodriguez? I'm Professor Emeritus Walsh's husband. She passed away last year, but she wanted me to give you something if I ever had the chance. He handed me a letter yellowed with age. I recognized Professor Walsh's handwriting immediately. Dear Elena, it began. If you're reading this, I'm gone and hopefully you've achieved everything I knew you would. I want you to know that teaching you was the greatest privilege of my career. You had a rare gift. Not just intelligence but the courage to pursue your ideas even when everyone said they were impossible. That courage is rarer than genius. I hope you never lost it. I hope the world didn't dim that brilliant spark I saw in my classroom all those years ago. And if your family never came around, if they never saw what I saw, that's their loss, not yours. You were always enough, Elena. You were always extraordinary. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. With great admiration and love, Professor Walsh. I stood in the middle of the Stanford quad, crying for the first time in years. For the teacher who saw me when my family didn't. For the path I'd walked alone. For the girl I'd been who'd needed someone to believe in her. Professor Walsh's husband patted my shoulder gently. She talked about you until the very end. Said you were her proudest achievement, even more than her own research. She knew you'd change the world. She never doubted it for a second. That evening I sat in my office looking at the letter, thinking about the people who'd shaped my journey. Professor Walsh, who'd seen potential no one else saw. Dr. Chen, who'd given me space to chase an impossible dream. My research team who worked beside me through failures and breakthroughs. The students who told me I'd inspired them to keep going when others doubted. My phone buzzed. An email from my mother. Elena, it's been 5 years since we've seen you. Please, we miss you. We know we made mistakes, but we're still your parents. Can't we move past this? I stared at the email for a long time. Then I opened a reply. Mom, I hope you and Dad are well. I've moved past it. I moved past it years ago when I realized I didn't need your approval to build a meaningful life. You're not villains in my story. You're just people who made choices that hurt me, and I'm someone who chose not to let that define my future. I'm successful. I'm happy. I'm surrounded by people who believe in me. That's enough. I hope you find peace with your choices. I found peace with mine. Best, Elena. I hit send and felt lighter than I had in years. I'm Dr. Elena Rodriguez. I have a PhD from Stanford. I've won the Nobel Prize in physics. I've revolutionized quantum computing and built a research empire that's training the next generation of physicists. I've saved my patent earnings into research initiatives that fund students from underprivileged backgrounds, giving opportunities to kids like I was, the ones whose families can't or won't support their dreams. My biological family wanted credit for my success when it became too big to ignore. But they didn't make me successful. They showed me what I'd have to achieve despite them, and that lesson was perhaps more valuable than their belief would have been. I learned that validation from people who doubted you means nothing. That success achieved without support is sweeter than success handed to you. That family isn't just biology. It's the people who show up when you're nobody, who believe in you before you have credentials to prove your worth. Professor Walsh showed up. Dr. Chen showed up. My students show up every day, brilliant and determined and hungry to change the world. That's my family. And their pride means everything.